Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is just incredibly fascinating. We're going to unpack a source text that is astonishingly brief. In fact, it's exactly 4 words: the last human teacher. But, don't let the brevity fool you. Sometimes it's the shortest phrases that carry the absolute heaviest implications, right? Over the next few minutes, we're going to extract every ounce of meaning, history, and future prediction packed into this tiny, deeply provocative phrase.
So let's just dive right into this stark premise. When you read those 4 words together, it instantly paints a picture of a future that feels, well, kind of like science fiction, but also like a rapidly approaching reality. What does this phrase actually mean for us? As we explore the literal and philosophical weight of a future where this concept actually becomes a reality, we have to recognize that we aren't just talking about classrooms or textbooks here. We're talking fundamentally about human connection and how we transfer our collective legacy from one generation to the very next.
All right, let's break down this concept word by word to see exactly what it's trying to tell us.
Let's start with the word last. Man, it is such a heavy, powerful term. It brings an immediate, stark sense of finality to a tradition of knowledge sharing that has literally existed since the dawn of our species. Think about it. Before there were schools, before written language even existed, there was always a human sitting by a fire showing another human how to survive, how to build, or how to think. Placing the word last right at the front of this phrase signals an absolute hard stop to that unbroken chain.
And this naturally begs the question. What happens when a role that is so deeply embedded in our human DNA becomes obsolete? The source text just neutrally posits an era where this role is finalized. It doesn't scream in panic, it just states a fact. And that neutrality, it makes us wonder whether this implies some profound tragedy of scarcity, like we're losing something incredibly precious, or if it's simply an inevitable, logical, technological evolution that we're supposed to just embrace.
Moving right along, let's look at the word human. This is without a doubt the absolute core element of the premise. By explicitly adding that specific modifier, a human teacher, the source forces us to juxtapose our own humanity against whatever non-human entity is poised to step in. It leaves this glaring, uncomfortable blank space. Because if the teacher isn't human, well, what are they? An algorithm? Some kind of synthetic intelligence? A holographic database? The word human is planted there specifically to remind us of the alternative.
While the source itself doesn't explicitly list these out, the word human naturally brings a few vital traits to mind. First, empathy. A human teacher can look at a student's face, instantly know they're confused or just having a rough day, and adjust their whole approach on the fly. Then there's shared lived experience. A human can look at you and say, hey, I struggled with this exact same math problem when I was your age, which instantly creates a bond of trust. And finally, imperfection. So often it's the funny mistakes, the random tangents, and those totally spontaneous moments of humanity that make learning stick. A perfectly programmed machine, it doesn't make those beautiful mistakes.
And that brings us to the final piece of the phrase we need to look at: teacher.
Now, a teacher is a title of immense respect across almost every culture on Earth. But in the context of the words last and human that come right before it, this job title undergoes a massive shift. They aren't just delivering raw data. An encyclopedia or a quick internet search can give you raw data, right? A true teacher acts as a vital conduit of humanity itself. They pass down culture, ethics, nuanced understanding, passion. When we talk about the last human teacher, we are talking about the closing of that specific, irreplaceable conduit.
Let's take a brief moment right now to ground this abstract concept in reality. Just think back to your own life. Consider the specific human qualities your absolute favorite educators had. Maybe it was their infectious enthusiasm for a subject you used to find completely boring. Or maybe it was just the way they believed in you when you honestly didn't believe in yourself. Those are the intricate, messy, deeply emotional nuances that a machine might never, ever truly replicate. And that is exactly what's at stake in our source phrase.
So, having unpacked the immense weight of those words, we have to ask, what comes next? We are really tracing a sweeping evolution here. We start way back in the past, with the first oral traditions, stories being passed down around the fire. Then we move into our present day, the era of the augmented human teacher, where educators are heavily supported by digital tools, smartboards, and early AI. And finally, the trajectory points directly into the future, landing right on the titular last human. It shows us that this isn't some sudden, out-of-nowhere shock. It's a gradual and perhaps totally unstoppable progression on a very long historical timeline.
Looking at our complete source text one last time,
It's absolutely crucial to remember our goal here isn't to judge whether this shift is inherently right or wrong. We aren't taking sides. Our aim is simply to impartially observe and analyze the immense societal pivot that these four little words represent. Because regardless of how you personally feel about it, this is a profound shift in the human story.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on long after this explainer ends. If we accept the premise of the last human teacher, we have to also accept that a brand new era immediately begins, which leaves us all to wonder, what exactly steps into the classroom when the last human steps out? Thanks so much for exploring this deeply fascinating concept with us today, and keep asking those big questions.